Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be covering the Excalibur frame in Warframe. Excalibur is one of the few frames that you have a choice of picking at the start of the game. You can either choose between him, Volt, or Mag, of course. Most new players end up choosing Excalibur, but of course if you don't own Excalibur, the other way you can get him is by going to the assassination mission on Pluto, which is called Hades, I believe. This is the node you're going to have to go to if you want to get the parts for the Excalibur Warframe. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get right into the build. Now, of course, this is going to be a budget build video, so this isn't going to be like, of course, a setup that's aimed at late game. It's going to be set up towards and geared towards new players. But I still think it's not, too bad of a build. So if we just go here and look real quick at Excalibur's base stats, he's got, average sprint speed, decent shield, decent amount of energy, decent health pool, and his armor is actually 225 base, which is actually really, really strong. Not a lot of the other frames have armor values this high. So Excalibur's a decently tanky frame. Now going into my build here, we'll just start off with the aura slot, so Steel Charge. This is something that I personally like to use on Excalibur because, well, Excalibur's passive is that he gains extra damage with melee weapons that are swords. So having Steel Charge giving you that extra melee damage is going to be even stronger. Of course, if you don't have a Steel Charge, it doesn't really matter too much what you use because he doesn't have a polarity slot. He doesn't have a polarity slot here in his aura slot, so it doesn't really matter what you use. You can use Energy Siphon, you use Sprint Speed if you really wanted to. I wouldn't use Sprint Speed. You can use Rejuvenation, use Corrosive Projection, whatever you feel is necessary for the mission you're going through. But for this build, we're going to be sticking with Steel Charge. Now, for the rest of the mods, I threw on a Steel Fiber. This is not a fully upgraded Steel Fiber because I'm poor, but this still is going to increase your armor a ton, so you can see here now I have 405 armor on my Excalibur. Another thing we have on is Intensify for power strength. This is going to make your abilities do more damage. Constitution for some power duration. The knockdown recovery really isn't, it's like a bonus. It's not really something that you need to worry about too much. But the main reason I have Constitution on is for that extra power duration there. And then combined with Continuity, that's going to get our power duration all the way up to 158%. This is just going to make your abilities, last longer when you use them. Now, for Flow, this is going to just increase your power, of course. So instead of having 150, we're going to have all the way up to 300. Streamline is going to give us some efficiency so we don't run out of energy so quickly. And Stretch is going to give us some extra range so that we can hit enemies at farther range with our abilities. Now, for the actual abilities themselves, we have, so let's just take a look at them without my mods. So this is the default set of abilities at a max level Excalibur with 0 mods equipped. So you can see you have the energy values here. You can also see what their damage numbers are, the range, and also damage numbers. Now, the main ability we're going to be focusing on with this build is probably Exalted Blade, which, if you've used Excalibur, you'll probably realize is probably his best ability, but it also has a huge drain on it. So, as you can see now when I look at the stats with the mods, the drain has been decreased all the way from 2.5 energy per second to a little over 1, which is going to make this build work extremely well. The other abilities are still pretty good too. Radial Blind is pretty good if you get stuck in like tight situations. You're gonna have to Radial Blind, and then you can just assassinate the enemies around you for higher damage. And of course you can see the passive here. Excalibur deals extra damage while wielding swords. So yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it for the build. Without further ado, let's get right into the gameplay. Throughout most of the gameplay you're going to see here, I was using the Exalted Blade ability because it doesn't have a lot of drain with the setup that I was using of the mods that I showed you in the build. The only other ability I really ever used was the Radial Blind ability, which if you don't know it already, when you're using Exalted Blade, if you slide and then slash, you activate Radial Blind, which will cost you about the same amount of energy that a normal Radial Blind does, but you can do it while using Exalted Blade, which is kind of useful if you get like stuck between a lot of enemies. while using Exalted Blade, but most of the time you just, as you can see, just slash them down. The other thing to look out for when you're using Exalted Blade is the nullifier bubbles. Exalted Blade, of course, because it does fire projectiles from your blade, you can hit the nullifier bubbles from a distance, so you don't actually have to worry about getting inside the nullifier bubbles and losing your Exalted Blade. As far as the other abilities go, most of the time when I'm playing Excalibur, I tend to just use Exalted Blade with, like I said, a tendency of a few radial blinds. The other two abilities, his 1 and 3, which are the Slash Dash and the Radial Javelin, I don't ever really find myself using. Not even because of the fact that they don't do enough damage or anything like that, but you'll just get more consistent damage out of Exalted Blade. And the other two abilities are more energy costly. So you two will probably end up using mostly just Exalted Blade to slash through your enemies. Another important thing to note while using Exalted Blade is that it does take the mods from your melee weapon. This includes elemental damage, melee damage increased, and crit chance and stuff like that. This also means that Steel Charge, like I said in my build, will apply damage, or extra damage, to your Exalted Blade. One last important tip to note is the fact that the Exalted Blade slashes go through pretty much about anything. They can go through the map. The only thing they don't go through is the nullifier bubbles, as you just saw right there. They just hit them and then they stop going. But they can go through multiple enemies, meaning if you're looking down a hallway and there's 3 enemies standing there, your slash can go through all 3 of them and hit them all 3 for the same exact damage. And that just about wraps up about all I have to say about Excalibur. He is one of my favorite frames. I think he's very fun to use. I do have a lot of use time on him. Yeah, he's a fun frame. Give him a try if you haven't already. Of course, most of you probably have, since he is a starting frame. I hope this video was helpful. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. And comment down below, like I said, if you want to see something else done. This was my first one doing a Warframe, like an actual frame video for my budget build series. So I really do hope you enjoyed this.
Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.